In today's video, we are going to be doing my updated 2022 Senate prediction as of today, June 11th of 2022. So by the end of today's video, we're going to be seeing if the Democrats retain control of the United States Senate or the Republicans flip control of the United States Senate. Now, starting with the safe Democratic states, California, Oregon, Hawaii, the state of New York, Connecticut, the state of Vermont, and the state of Maryland, giving the Democrats a total of 43 Senate seats, with the Republicans winning in the state of Idaho, Utah, the Dakotas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and the special election, with Tim Imhoff seat up for re-election as he is retiring. Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, and the state of Iowa. These are safe races for the Republican Party, as well as the state of Alaska, which has a ranked choice voting system. The top two candidates are likely going to both be Republicans, Lisa Murkowski and Kelly Tshibaka, while for the race in South Carolina, Tim Scott should be able to win by a margin of over 15 percentage points. Now, going to the likely races for both parties. These are races I do expect both parties to easily win, but the margin will be closer. Starting with Washington, I do expect the Democrats to win this race by about 10 percentage points. We have the incumbent Patty Murray not being super popular. In 2010, I will have to add that this was a Republican wave, but in 2010, Patty Murray was only able to win re-election by a margin of less than 5 percentage points, or a lean margin. That being said, in 2016, a pretty neutral environment, Patty Murray was able to hit her election by 18 percentage points in a Republican wave that's likely going to be less than 2010. I do expect the margin to be a likely margin. Illinois, similar story here. Tammy Duckworth was able to unseat an incumbent by a pretty impressive margin. That being said, this election cycle is a Republican wave. Now, going to the likely Republican states, we have quite a few, starting with the state of Ohio. We do have Tim Ryan losing to, right now, the confirmed Republican nominee, J.D. Vance. I think that Tim Ryan could do better in his home district. That being said, the state went for Rob Portman by a margin of 21 percentage points, likely not going to be too friendly for the Democratic Party. Next state will be the state of Florida, with Marco Rubio being a very popular incumbent, has like a 50-something% approval rating, pretty well liked in the state of Florida, very electable. In 2016, was able to win his race by 7.7 percentage points, and in 2010 was able to win his race by 19.2 percentage points. That being said, the independent Charlie Crist split a lot of the Democratic vote. So yeah. Now, going to the next race that will be likely, the state of North Carolina will be a likely Republican race, given the fact that this is a pretty friendly Republican environment, and Ted Budd is a much better candidate than Pat McCrory, the former governor of the state that had that lost re-election due to the bathroom bill that really was unpopular within the state. Going to the state of Wisconsin, this will be the last likely Republican race, with the Republicans already gaining 49 seats. They've held on to, officially speaking, all of their races except the state of Pennsylvania, which we will be going over later on. So for the state of Wisconsin, I do have the Republican Party winning in this race, with Ron Johnson as the incumbent. I do think that he is a pretty good incumbent. He promised to retire. That being said, that does not necessarily hurt his electability as much as some Democrats would like to point it out. So for the final 6 races here on the board, Democrats control 5: Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, and the state of New Hampshire, while for the Republicans, they control the state of Pennsylvania. Let's start with the state of Nevada and then move ourselves finally to the state of New Hampshire. For state of Nevada, I do have this race going to the Republican Party by a narrow tilt margin. This is due to the fact that Kevin Cortez Masto only won by 2.4 percentage points. It was a very close race. She did not even crack 47.5% of the vote, and Joe Heck was able to garner 44.67% of the vote. So I do expect an incumbent with such a weak margin in 2016 to lose in 2022. Going to Arizona, I do expect this race to also be a tilt Republican race, with Mark Kelly as the incumbent. Officially speaking, the Republicans have won the United States Senate. I do think that Arizona, Mark Kelly is a slightly overrated incumbent. He was expected to win by this race by a margin of 7 to 8 percentage points. By the polls, he only won by 2.3 percentage points. Again, the polls were generally off in 2020, but it just shows that he is somewhat of a overrated incumbent. And the Republicans still have a pretty high floor in the state. As we saw in 2016, John McCain was able to win by 13 points. That being said, that's kind of a irrelevant comparison, as John McCain was a very good incumbent and a very good fit for the state of Arizona. Now for the state of Colorado, the race will go to the Democrats. I don't think that is super surprising. The state is generally trending Democrat and will be safe for the Democrats in like 10 years. Now for the state of Georgia, this is also a decently close race, but I do have Raphael Warnock losing against Herschel Walker. Raphael Warnock not doing the best in the polls. Herschel Walker consistently leading Raphael Warnock in some of the polls, and Raphael Warnock being not as good as a candidate as Jon Ossoff. Jon Ossoff was not able to win his race by the same margin as Raphael Warnock. Jon Ossoff underperformed by 0.8%. That being said, that was just because that David Perdue was a much better candidate than Kelly Loeffler in the state of Georgia. Now going to the final two states here, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania we're going to leave for last. That race is what I'll call a true toss-up. But for the state of New Hampshire, it does look like the Democrats will end up holding the state of New Hampshire, with Maggie Hassan polling pretty much ahead of the other candidates in the state of New Hampshire. Now she was only able to win her last election by 0.14 percentage points. That being said, Kelly Ayotte was an electoral giant, who in 2010 won by a margin of, I believe, 30 points. 23.2%. She was able to crack 60% of the vote, for crying out loud, in such a competitive election. In such a competitive state, I meant the national environment was not good for the Democratic Party, but she was able to win by 23.2% of the vote. And that being said, I think New Hampshire will go narrowly for Maggie Hassan. For Pennsylvania here, last time I had it as total Democrat, but John Fetterman had a stroke, and he's not likely going to return back to the campaign trail anytime soon. With that information, the Republican primary was very contentious, decided by less than 1,000 votes between Dave McCormick and Mehmet Oz. So there's still a lot of the party divide within the GOP in the state of Pennsylvania. All things being equal, I do give the Republicans a slight edge in Pennsylvania, just because John Fetterman's unlikely to be able to return to a campaign trail for at least another 2 weeks. So thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye!